Lowell Planning Board for Monday, December 4th, 2017. We do have a public hearing that's scheduled this evening that was continued from a previous meeting. It's for a site plan review and special permits at 555 Merrimack Street. An application was submitted by Attorney James Flood Jr. on behalf of Coalition for a Better Acre, INC, seeking site plan review and special permits for approval of the above address, which is located in the urban mixed-use zoning district. The proposed development includes demolition of the existing structure and construction of a new 4-story mixed-use building. The project includes 1,704 square feet of retail space on the ground floor and a total of 28 residential units with improvements to the associated parking area. The project requires site plan review, approval under section 11.4, and special permit approval under section 6.1.6, parentheses 6, for reduction of parking, and under Article 12, Table of Uses from the Planning Board, and any other relief required. May we hear from the applicants, please?
Good evening, Attorney Catherine Flood. I'm here on behalf of Lowell House, Inc., who is the current owner of property located at 555 Merrimack Street, as well as Coalition for a Better Acre, Inc., that is the petitioner. Here with me tonight is Attorney James W. Flood III, Young Ju Choi, Executive Director of the Coalition for a Better Acre, Joseph Pesnola from Hancock Associates, he is the project engineer, Kendra Halliwell from Icon Architecture, who is the project architect, and Craig Thomas, Director of Real Estate for the Coalition of a Better Acre. We are here today to request the following. Site plan approval under section 11.4 of the City of Lowell zoning ordinance for a new mixed-use development. A special permit under section 12.1E of the zoning ordinance, which is for 7 or more units on a single lot in a mixed-use development. A special permit for parking required under section 6.1.66 for residential parking in an urban mixed-use zone. In addition to these requests tonight, I just want to inform the board that the applicant also has to appear in front of the Historic Board and the Conservation Commission for approvals. The project involves the demolition of the existing building currently owned by Lowell House at 555 Merrimack Street and the construction of a new 4-story mixed-use building. The first floor of the building in the front will contain approximately 1,704 square feet of retail use, and the vast majority of the building will be for residential use, residential units. As currently envisioned, there will be 27 residential units as follows: 7 studio apartments, 11 one-bedroom apartments, and 9 two-bedroom apartments. The existing building has been occupied for several years by Lowell House as a drug and alcohol treatment center. Lowell House is moving its current treatment center to a new location on Jackson Street. The Coalition for a Better Acre is proposing to construct a residential apartment building for individuals that have demonstrated their commitment to sobriety and a desire to live among others who share that goal. Yun Ju Choi, the Executive Director of a Coalition for Better Acre, is here with us tonight and would like to explain the Coalition for Better Acre's mission and how it applies to the project we're proposing for approval before this board.
Good evening. My name is Yoon Ju Choi, and I'm the Executive Director of Coalition for a Better Acre. And Coalition for a Better Acre is a community development corporation with mission of revitalizing the community and helping families to become economically self-sufficient. And to do that, we provide affordable housing, after-school program with emphasis on education and career exploration, job training programs that guarantees placement and transportation to meet the barriers, and civic engagement. And for the past 35 years, we've developed 476 units of housing with 33 units of commercial space and we have 53 more units in works that should be completed next year and year after. And as Attorney Flood presented, CBA is proposing to build 27 residential projects for this with people that are going through recovery on Merrimack Street. And we're really excited about this development because we all know opioid crisis is one of the biggest issues that we're facing in the city of Lowell, and we can be part of a solutions to help people that are going through a recovery to stay and safe and recover. One of the stat that I heard from Bill Garr when we initially started talking about this was people that go through a detox program, there's only 10% success rate for the people to stay in recovery. But for people who actually receive services and has permanent housing that has some supportive services attached to it, there are about 80% success rate. So going from 10% from detox to 80%, to me, this is a reason that we should all be supporting this project. And so this conversation about partnership with Lowell House started about 4 years ago, so it's been a long time coming. And our initial concept was to tear down the existing building and build a brand new building with commercial space where Lowell House would actually provide services, and we would build 23 units. And to get support, and the way we always do our work is to really go out to the community and talk to our neighbors and community members. And we have heard from some of the neighbors as well as the city councilors some concerns about Lowell House counseling program being there. So after working with Lowell House and other community members, it was decided that Lowell House would actually move to Jackson Street, where the Lowell Community Health Center is. And that's actually so that the clients that are going to Lowell House can also receive other wraparound services. And we would actually build residential that would have people that has gone through recovery for at least a year. So these people have gone through detox. Some of the people may have gone through group homes and transitional homes. So this is permanent housing, or what we would like to call normal housing, where people have leases, people pay rent, and people can stay as long as they want or move out. So this is a normal residential housing that CBA builds normally, but attached to that, the residents that live in there would have a guideline of no drugs and alcohol. CBA actually has no drugs and no smoking in all of our projects, so we would have a house rule of not having alcohol in the building. So, and we would also have resident service coordinators from both Maloney Properties, who we have for all of our projects, to help families with the day-to-day things that they need. But we would also partner with Lowell House for them to check on the residents to make sure that people are successful. So this is very exciting venture for us. And a couple other things that I would like to also note is CBA hires Maloney Properties as a third party to manage our properties. And as you know, I'm sure all of you know, some of our properties, all of our properties are kept very well. We have designated staff on site on a daily basis to clean up or take care of issues. And we also have detailed Lowell police officers that come around all of our properties to make sure that there's to take care of all the issues that there may be, but if there's actually very, very little incidents in our properties. We meet with police department on a regular basis, and there hasn't been any major incidents in our properties. So we're very excited to do this project, and thank you so much for hearing, and then you'll hear more about the site plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, why don't you put it on over there on an angle so everybody can see it, okay, if you don't mind? Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate it there. So if you can turn it a little bit, sure. That's good. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think so. They'll let us know.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Joe Pesnola from Hancock Association, representing Coalition for a Better Acre in this application. The existing site is 22,500 square feet. It's bounded by Merrimack Street, by the Western Canal to the north, by Moody Street and a 3-story multifamily dwelling to the east, and to the south by a retail, which is the floor shop, and a parking lot to the south. Currently, it has a 1-story block building, approximately in the location of where we're proposing the new building, up against the canal and Merrimack Street. We are proposing a new building, about 6,500 square foot footprint, 4 stories. There'll be a retail component on the first floor, about 1,700 square feet, which will front on Merrimack Street. And the Historic District asked us to put the building right on the back of sidewalk and to have the entrance to the retail there and to have that be the street presence for the building itself. There'll be units on the first floor and then floors 2 through 4. We are proposing to modify the existing pavement out there, redo the entire parking lot, to develop a 23-car parking lot in full compliance with the city's requirements for parking aisle, parking space size, the handicap space requirements, and so forth. We've also been working with the city engineer's office to provide a brand new drainage system, stormwater management system for the parking lot. That'll be an underground system over by Moody Street, which will take the majority of it. And then there's an existing catch basin just off of Merrimack Street that we'll be reutilizing and putting some more infiltration there to take care of the stormwater. So stormwater, both in treatment and attenuation, will be vastly improved with this project. We are proposing to refresh the water and sewer utility connections to the existing site with potentially, there's a city project under the Tiger Grant that'll take up the Western Canal area for up to 5 years. So we may do utility connections right out to Merrimack Street. The current utilities come towards the canal. There's an easement there. It used to be Hanover Street. Long ago, Hanover went through, so there's water and sewer there. But because of all the bridge work that's going to be happening, they want that area for a laydown area. So we've got 2 alternatives for the utility connections, one in Merrimack Street and one out to that area of the canal. So we've taken that into consideration. We do have provisions for a dumpster, screened dumpster, and for trash and recycling. and that's towards the middle of the parking lot on the southerly side, and that'll have a fully fenced and gated enclosure around it with some landscaping around that. Then to round out the landscaping against the three-story multifamily to the east, we're proposing a row of vegetated screening along there, along with a walkway to get out to the canal. With regards to the canal, we've made a commitment to work with the National Forest Service, who controls kind of the landscaping along the canal walks, to work with them to bring that park back to life, make sure that the trees are either saved or replaced as it is needed, and to also just refresh the whole park area to really bring it back. But we do have that 5-year program in which we won't have access to that area, so there'll be some delay in implementation of that plan until that project is complete. With regards to parking, which I think is one of the major issues for your board to grapple with, we have 27 units and the 1,700 square feet of retail space. So the 27 units, and based on the bedroom count, would require the 54 spaces at the two parking spaces per. We're asking for the special permit from your board for the 50% reduction in that, down to 27. The retail is 1,700 square feet, and the requirement there is for one space per 900 square feet in the urban mixed-use district. And there's an automatic 50% reduction there, so technically the retail requires one space. So that's a total of 28 spaces, and we're providing 23 on site, and we feel that's about right with regards to Coalition's prior needs assessment with regards to parking. That's about the ratio we provided at Unity Place on Moody Street. We had 16 parking spaces there for 23 units. Similar parking ratio to Gorham Street. It has to do with the demographic and the tenant selection. These units are being offered to residents earning no more than 60% of area median income. So there's a piece there that kind of knocks down the need for or the likelihood that families have 2 cars, and some families have no cars with regards to their tenant mix. So Coalition knows their people, and feels that the parking is sufficient. With regard to the retail, your ordinance, allows for the offsetting or the sharing of parking during the day for retail and residents at night and weekends. So if you look at the numbers there, the percentages for the daytime needs of the residential, we're sure that there'll be plenty of parking for the retail there. And again, we're required under the ordinance to have one space. But understanding that parking is still an issue and we need to show compliance, we do have a letter we've entered into the record where we have committed to lease 15 spaces at the Ayotte Garage, up to 15 spaces at the Ayotte Garage. So there's a letter in the record that memorializes that. So that's how we are achieving compliance and putting what we feel is this board's in a good position to be able to grant that 50% reduction for the residential parking, showing that compliance. Just to make sure that we've covered our bases and we've covered the parking issue, we did do similar to what we did on Gorham Street with the Gorham Street project. We did a nighttime and weekend parking assessment of available on-street parking. And we looked at the area within about a 1,500-foot radius of the project site. Looked at Merrimack Street, Moody Street, and some of the cross streets, Market Street, Father Morissette Boulevard, Cabot Street, Arcand, the Cardinal O'Connell Parkway, Drummer Street. And what we did is we looked at the number of spaces that were available on those stretches of roadways in each direction, and then counted the number of cars at the various times. On Tuesday, November 28th, from 9 a.m. to 11. On Wednesday, November 29th, from 5:45 to 6:30. And then on Saturday, from 8:30 to 9, and then at 6 p.m. And what you'll see is we've converted the vacancies into a utilization number, or the number of cars into a utilization number on each street, in each direction. And you can see that what we're finding is, because of the makeup of the area with City Hall and the police and fire and the lower incidence of residential down here, that there's a nice mix and a nice availability of additional on-street parking in the general vicinity. So we think through this kind of four-pronged approach to parking, we've made sure, belt and suspenders, that this project will have sufficient parking for both the residences and the small retail component. As Attorney Flood said, we have to go to Lowell Historic, and we've begun that process, and Kendra can let you know where we are on that. And we also have to go to Conservation Commission for a request for determination of applicability, because we're within the buffer zone of the canal. We don't see any issues with regards to conservation on that matter. Any time that we've ever worked proximate to the canal, we developed a site just to the north for Jeanne d'Arc with the same reach of the canal. There should be no issues there. And as I said, we've worked with Mr. Stewart at wastewater with regard to the stormwater, and I think you're in receipt of a letter dated yesterday from the engineering department with regards to where we stand, and it looks pretty clean, mostly just offering conditions, proposed conditions for the board with regards to that. So we felt we've taken the extra time that we had and worked closely with city staff to make sure we've got the project in the best form possible for you all to review it. Be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, Kendra can go over the building design and the architectural components.
Thank you.
Would it be okay if I put the board here so I can point to it if I need to?
Just as long as everybody in the audience can see it, so you just
Right.
can't have it facing us. So if you want to put it back over similar to there, so the cameras can pick it up in the audience, that's fine.
You can also
Sure,
use one
she can
of
use
those
the
on
microphone right over
microphone over there.
All you do is pick up the microphone from where one of the counselors sit, put the green button on, and proceed. Yep. You just hit the button down below. Yep. So once that green light shows up, that means it's amplifying. Okay. Yep. So you push the bottom, you can see the green light? Yep, there you go, then that'll amplify.
Does that work?
Yep.
Fabulous. Great. Okay. My name's Kendra Halliwell. I'm an associate at Icon Architecture. We do a lot of multifamily housing, we do a lot of historic rehab, and we do a lot of affordable housing. This is the core, the heart, the soul of our practice, and I'm thrilled to be here to work with CBA on this building here in Lowell, and thank you for having us here tonight. I have 3 boards to show you and a couple of smaller handouts to share. We're proposing 27 apartments and a small retail space out on Merrimack Street. If I can orient you on the plans here, this is the ground floor plan, and the upper floor plan is typical for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor. So down here, Merrimack Street is towards the front. And then we've got a second side here that I'm gonna how's that? Is that okay? Okay. So along the long side facing the parking lot is like another facade, another prominent facade here, as well as the side facing the canal. These are all fairly important elevations, so we've paid attention to each side. Along the side facing the parking lot will be the residential entry, while along Merrimack Street is the retail entry. And we met with the Lowell Historic Board a couple of weeks ago, and they made some very good suggestions. One being to pull the back of the building pull the front of the building to the back of the sidewalk, right? So we could use that square footage. We pulled it out a little bit, so it does sit at the back of the sidewalk right there. They made some other suggestions as well. I'll show you some of those. The building is set up as a fairly traditional double-loaded corridor with an elevator in the middle. The main entry comes in here with a management office and small bathroom. And then to the other side, there's a small community meeting space with 3 apartments on the ground floor. And the elevator centrally located and 2 stairs. Up above, there are 8 apartments on each floor. Towards Merrimack Street, there are 2 2-bedroom apartments, and then coming around the building, a studio, there are 1 bedrooms on each of these corners, another studio, and then a 2-bedroom back here. This is the canal side, so these apartments have living rooms that are facing out onto the canal side. We see that as a great amenity here. Just pop up here. This street used to have 3- and 4-story buildings all down it. And so we are proposing a similarly scaled building to the one right across the street that still exists. I'm going to jump around a little bit. We have this wonderful photograph from the historic board that shows what the street used to look like. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Can I pass it up to you? Is that all right? Okay. It's a very compelling photo. It's wonderful. So in that spirit, we've also designed this building, looking both at this street and at buildings in this neighborhood, as well as closer to downtown Lowell, sort of the way buildings are broken up. This is the facade on Merrimack Street. So we've broken it up into smaller vertical pieces, as well as creating a heavy ground floor level. Not heavy, but an articulation at the first floor is something that we see around the city, so we're looking to emulate that. We've also brought in some bays on that facade, similar to the building right across the street as well. We're currently proposing 3 floors of masonry and a penthouse level up above that's a different material. A nice cornice at the top, but really breaking the building traditionally into base middle top here, with the retail entry right here in the middle. We've been looking at the historic context to see how the building breaks up. The folks on the historic board made a couple of great suggestions, one being to bring some brickwork, some masonry work into it. So we're starting to look at maybe some soldier courses in here, again, sort of down here at street level where people will interact with that. We're hoping to go back to meet with them sort of as an interim informal discussion, and then go more formally in early January. So we've got that conversation going. We're also proposing a date stone at the corner by the canal. It feels like a nice nod to the way things used to be done. So this is the facade on Merrimack Street. This is the facade facing the main entry for the residential apartments. Their entry is here. So we've carried the language, sort of this retail scale language, around into the side a little bit, as well as around the corner to the canal side. This is the side of the canal. The living rooms are articulated a little more specially with being tied together. They're not bays, but they're tied together vertically. And then the back also is the back of the building is a fairly simple, but with nice proportions, well laid out building. This new building will meet the stretch code. It's going to have high performance materials, a great building envelope with exterior insulation, highly efficient mechanical and ventilation systems, and it's going to be a really great, healthy place to live for these new residents. We've also, as part of our study of this building, of this site, we did a shadow study. And for some words on that, north is up to this corner where I am. So as the sun rises over there and sets over here, the shadows really only hit the adjacent neighbor in the very, very late afternoon. But we feel like the siding of this building siding and scale of this building is appropriate for the neighborhood, being close to the canal and allowing the greatest space to the neighbors as well. So I think I've covered everything I need to cover, and I'm absolutely happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anybody else from the applicant to speak? No? Okay. Okay. Anybody else here this evening want to speak in favor of this project? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. Anybody want to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Gentlemen, my name is John Cox, Attorney John Cox, 375 Gorham Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. I represent David Dakota, who is the owner, proud owner of a business that's been in Lowell and Merrimack Street since 1956, Flowers by Albert. And as we all know, his business is directly aside from this proposed development. Mr. Dakota and his family have been there again since 1956. They've gone through all the ups and downs the city has had, especially this neighborhood up on Merrimack Street. He has stayed there, and he's run a proud business there. His property is always in great shape. If you drive by, it always looks good. He hires people. He has a wonderful reputation. And he's concerned, quite frankly, about his business and how we can go forward with this development next to him. It's interesting as we go through. If I may, I'd like to just move one of those slides over, if I may. As the architect was going through here, something caught my eye. And as you see, and I know this is not Flowers by Albert. Flowers by Albert is across the street on the other side of the proposed building. But if you look at that white building, which is the bottom part of that four-story building across the street from the proposed, that's kind of what it's going to look like coming up the other way up Merrimack Street. Mr. Dakota's building is a one-story building, and that's going to be next to a four-story building. And so just when that caught my eye, that's a visual that I don't think is attractive or positive for Flowers by Albert. Mr. Dakota has some specific concerns which we hope can be addressed. One of them is the location of the dumpster. The dumpster is located in this proposal directly adjacent to Mr. Dakota's business in the back of it. As has been stated, this is a 27-unit residential building. I'm assuming people are going to be eating there and having meals there and whatnot, and I'm assuming the waste from all that will go into the dumpster. Mr. Dakota has a major concern with that, with the types of things that will attract in the back of his business. We're also concerned about the shading effect. Now, I know that a shadow study was done. I received it Friday afternoon. It doesn't shows, I guess, what the shading is 4 times a year and a couple of times each day on those 4 days. But Mr. Dakota has got some real concerns about snow and what have you on his 1-story flat roof building, and what impact a 4-story building next to that will have on how that melts and what have you, or how it doesn't melt in the wintertime. He's a small businessman, and these things are real concerns to him. We don't know how long the demolition is going to take. We don't know how long the construction is going to take. I bring that up because Mr. Dakota's foundation was built in the 1940s. And obviously, major construction next to his building, he's concerned about what impact, if any, that may have on his foundation. He's also concerned with the request for the special permit for the usage to allow more than 7 units in the building. It's my understanding that once this is approved, although right now there's a mixture of 1- and 2-bedroom units proposed, this could go without anybody's approval. My understanding is it could go back to all 1-bedroom units, or anything actually, as long as it stayed residential. And I think the question too is this the best place for what is being called, at least loosely, a sober house? Now, when I first heard that term, I assumed that would be a requirement. I understand it's difficult to require sobriety, but clearly, I remember when the shelter began on Middlesex Street back in the 1980s, I was on the first board of directors there, and that was described to be a dry shelter. Apparently, that's not the case anymore. Over the years, that has evolved into what it is now, and clearly, we're concerned that this could have the same fate. And Mr. Dakota clearly is concerned with people who may be living there, who may be loitering out in front of his property, and what have you. As we all know, there's a liquor store literally 2 doors down, XL Liquors, from where this is proposed. You know, and another thing is the parking. I mean, they're looking for a 50% reduction in what is required by the zoning. Obviously, zoning requirements are there for a reason. The zoning requirement pertaining to parking in this zone is there for a reason. And to look for a 50% reduction, I know it's not maybe 50 when the spaces are put together, but it's still a large reduction. Now, my years in these type of boards, I always thought there had to be a hardship for these types of things. And yet, if you look at what's being offered here, the proponents are actually creating the hardship by the number of units they're proposing. Clearly, they have a number of spots on site. They have some spots that have been taught that the city has conditionally approved, obviously subject to the final approval of the city manager. But so there are some spots there. But to need more than that is simply because of how high they've gone and the number of units that are being proposed. We don't know what the commercial space will be, and I know that's beyond your powers here. We don't know how big that community space is. It sounds like it was a unit that was just converted at the end of last week into this community space. You know, we're concerned about people outside, adjacent to Mr. Dakota's business, congregating and what have you. So these are the, you know, specific concerns and general concerns that Mr. Dakota has. You know, if this were to be approved, and we hope it isn't, but if it were to be approved, we would hope that the board could put some conditions on the approval. If this is truly going to be a sober house and a house where people are going to get help and people have been through recovery, then should be a dry building, should be no alcohol allowed. We want the dumpster moved. We've heard talk of regular police details, but we don't know. It seems like it's kind of haphazard. We'd like to see that cleared up. And we'd like it clear that there'd be no outside space for recreational purposes. That's why I asked how big the community space indoors was, because as we all know, people like to go outside and do whatever, get out of the house, and that's something that could seriously cause a problem. So, I mean, we would like to have no outside, and I don't think there is any proposed outside space for recreational area, but would like that underlined. Just comes down to, again, an old Lowell business, concerned about how he's going to survive. He's got his son is in his 40s. He wants his son to take over the business. His son wants to take over the business. He's been in that neighborhood forever. He'd like to see the neighborhood, you know, beautified and taken to the next level. But he's looking for your help to protect his interests. And those are our concerns, specific and general. We oppose it with all due respect to all the various agencies involved, but Mr. Dakota needs someone to look out for him at this point as well. So thank you very much. Be happy to answer any questions you may have, but thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Come to the microphone, please. Just state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Audra Dinora. I'm the manager of the Nichols Smith House LLC, which is the owner of the adjacent property at 200 Moody Street. 200 Moody Street is a brick building from the early 1800s that has historic value for the neighborhood. I wanted to state that I support this project in general, and I appreciate the work of the Coalition for a Better Acre and the Lowell House, Inc. My one concern was when I saw the shadow drawing, which indicates that in December, the historic brick building will be in shadows for the majority of the day. So again, I support the project, but I would just like to make sure that the impact on the 200-year-old building from the newly proposed building is considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Anyone else? Anyone else? Hearing none at this time, I'll turn the questions over to any board members. Have any questions? No. I'll start with Mr. Lockhart.
So, Mr. Chairman, regarding the enclosure for the recycling and the dumpster, I guess, can you describe how that's built? I mean, you can't tell by looking at the plan I have. It looks like a wall of some sort. And have you looked at any alternative locations? And one other thing, on that rendition down there, it looks like you have shrubbery in the back of it, between it and the florist shop. Can you describe that height and what it would do to block the view?
Answer to the first question, we're envisioning that'll be a solid stockade fence surround with a gate, dumpsters inside, and also provision for recycling, as CBA and their management company does on all their properties. They keep them very well maintained. There'll be a gate, a man gate size on the side for the residents to be able to easily get in and out without having to open the big gates that the truck will use. So that'll be a very aesthetically pleasing enclosure and a very effective screen and containment area for the trash. With regard to alternatives, we do just on the other side of the parking lot towards the building side, we've got a large area for our transformer. We could look at the possibility of swapping those two items. The transformer being more benign a use close to the floor shop. It will come down to access and being able to get both the access necessary for the trash, but also the access necessary for the electric company to the transformers. But we'll certainly be happy to look at whether or not we could configure something like that and directly address the abutters' concern. And the last question with regard to the screening, whenever we try to put in a screen to not just be parking lot landscaping, but to have the effect of screening, we do it with a mix of deciduous and pine, so that it's a year-round screen. So it would be a good staggered mix, good healthy screen.
Okay, well, clearly relocating it to that specific location, I think would benefit the abutter and, you know, maintain your ability to handle that situation. So I would prefer to see that at some point, and what that would do to the rest of the layout. What is do you have any kind of exterior lighting that's going to impact the surrounding area?
We are proposing lighting. It's shown on sheet 5 in the back parking lot near Moody Street. The other lighting will be building-mounted lighting for the parking lot towards Merrimack. The light fixture we're proposing is a low period style light that offers both a cap screen to stop light pollution straight up, and it can be fitted with a back screen, and it's called for that, to shield it from spillover onto the adjacent properties.
The shading effect of the building came up twice. Can you address that?
Certainly.
Particularly as it impacts the historical building adjacent to the property?
So typically when we do new development, we do a shadow study just like this, regardless of project size, whether it's, you know, a city block redevelopment or one building on that city block. And we start by building the context in the model, by then orienting it to the location north, south, east, west, and then we plug in these times. And the reason the solstices are the given dates, as well as the particular times are the regular study, because it gives a good range of all the different times of days. I think I'd like to refer back to the image of the way the street used to be, where there were 3- and 4-story buildings around the whole neighborhood as well. I think in particular, is it Petra? Your building, it's a tall 2 and a bit stories as well, right? So it's a beautiful building. And I feel like we would like to be a good neighbor to you. We've pulled where the building is located, it is as close to Merrimack Street as it can go. And the scale feels appropriate. I think in that rendering, it's actually shown a little larger than it really will be. And I'd be happy to sort of talk through the shadows here with you. Again, I think as I look through these, I see no impact in March or June, a little impact in September,
December, I think.
and then a little in December. So it's not a huge building. I think if it would be, I'd love to show you what the two buildings look like, maybe from the canal next to each other, so you can see your house next to this one to see the context as it goes. And maybe it'll feel a little better. But I'd be very happy to sit with Audra anytime.
All right, maybe, yeah. If we understood that better, maybe it would be acceptable. Well, and your comment on, was also a situation with the foundation of the floor shop and the duration from when the demolition begins to the construction and the impact that it might have and what could possibly be done. Can you address that, Joe?
Yes, because of the funding here, we don't know when the start date would be, but once the start date, once mobilization happens, it would be probably 18 months start to finish. The first thing we'd do is obviously do the demolition to the one story, and at that time, we would have some pre-characterization of the underlying soils to understand the foundation, the proposed foundation design, and then that will dictate depth of excavation. But we do have a good distance from the property line to the new building. The demolition will actually be closer because there's a piece of the building that's closer to that sideline.
Mm-hmm.
But once we start, we're contemplating, there's no basement. So we're contemplating a frost wall, 4-foot frost wall footings and slab, but we haven't designed the foundations yet. But obviously, when we select a contractor and start that beginning process of securing the site, we'd be happy to include the contractor taking a look at the basement and doing a pre-assessment of what's going on there. It protects everyone, protects CBA, it protects the contractor, it protects the neighbor with regards to what's going on. And just making the contractor aware that there is that concern and keeping things to a minimum.
They can more or less monitor that, I would think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all right.
In
That's the key word.
when we did the site to the north for Jeanne d'Arc, we did experience some soil conditions that necessitated taking out extra soil and bringing new soil in, but nothing was out of the ordinary. We didn't have ledge, or we didn't have anything that caused major disruptions to the neighborhood during that. And that building actually had a small basement component to it. So we think that this will be a little bit less, but certainly it's about education and investigation, and then just making sure the contractor is aware that there is the concern.
Okay, that answers that. I just have one other thing. Christine, did we, or maybe Joe, you again, the fire department, I didn't see any documentation from them regarding.
I did get an email. They don't have any concerns with the project.
All right, okay.
It was delayed, so that's my apology for not forwarding that on.
That's all right, as long as we know. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Any other board members have any questions or comments?
I have a couple.
Mr. Malovich?
Is there public funding or tax credits involved in this project?
I'm Craig Thomas, the Director of Real Estate for CBA. Yes, we're proposing this to be funded with a mix of subsidy largely from the state, including low-income housing tax credits.
So you will have a requirement that it remain affordable housing?
Correct, and it's some of those rules that allow us to enforce the other provisions that we see as important for the project.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure of the, who owns the abutting canal area to the canal side of the project? Is that part of your parcel, or is it?
So in the danger of doing my best land surveyor impression, my understanding is that the property is owned to the top of the bank, or really the railing that's out there now, before it slopes down to the canal. And that is owned fully as a part of the property, but that there's an easement with the National Park Service. That is what the walkway is built on. Again, in reference to what Joe said about working with the National Park Service on the beautification and redevelopment of that portion of the site.
Okay, so they have control of the use of that parcel, but that area, but you own it?
Correct.
Okay. Now, this was an urban renewal project site from back in the 70s. It was a 40-year plan. I assume that the thing expired. Your title attorneys may want to look at some of the issues of what requirements are on that land, because that was part of a renewal plan that may have some restrictions. But if that plan has expired, I mean, if it was 72, it would be over in 2012. I would have your attorneys check that out anyway.
Yeah, thank you. It's an excellent point, and I know, just because I know a little bit of this from working with the city before, that the prior urban renewal plans were engaged with the federal government directly, as you yourself know well, and that those have been ending and have been terminated over time. And the newer ones that are still in play, the Hamilton Canal District and others, are very different and don't have that same direct involvement and complication with the federal government.
I think that's all the comments I have. Right
Thank you, Mr. Malovich. Mr. Snetsky, any questions, comments?
Yes. Yes. In general, I feel that this would be in keeping with the redevelopment and refurbishing of the Upper Merrimack Street corridor. And, you know, would be an improvement certainly over what's there today, and, you know, would not necessarily be inappropriate. That being said, you know, there is a concern about the requested parking waiver. However, you know, in the same token, you know, given the type of use and the residents, I think that the number of vehicles, you know, may well be somewhat less than a conventional, you know, housing development. In addition, you know, even though there is no plan on the table to extend the DMU zone, you know, there is some discussion of that, you know, through the income study and so forth. And I think, you know, that this would also be in keeping with that. All that being said, I do share concerns of a long-time Lowell business, and I would like to see, you know, some of the conditions that they've raised, you know, included in any approval we may give, in particular, you know, I share their concern about the location of the dumpster. Also, and I'm not sure what the legalities or the exact condition would state, but, you know, something along the lines of it being a dry, sober building, which is something that, you know, the CBA representatives have mentioned. But if we could include something along those lines in there, I think that would, you know, help the, you know, the abutter, and also, you know, I'm just checking my notes here. You know, any, you know, condition about, you know, no outside recreational space. I think, you know, I am prepared to support the project, but I certainly would want to try to, you know, help the abutters' concerns, and also, you know, some kind of a condition that the applicant work with him in terms of, you know, any potential damage or impact on the structure of his building, you know, during any demolition or so forth. But, you know, other than that, you know, with some conditions, I think, you know, the project in general, you know, has merit.
Thank you. I just want to add a couple things. So the sober housing piece. So this is more of a permanent regular housing for people that are going through a recovery. So the steps of the recovery normally is people would go through a detox for 30 to 60 days. And then there is another step of group homes, people living in congregated living like Megan's house that we all heard about. And then after that, people actually go to transitional halfway houses. And Audra actually rents a house to Lowell house that actually has people that are going through the transitions. And then this is a step after that. And some of the people that will be living here may have gone through recovery year ago, or some people may have gone through recovery and have been living sober for 10, 15 years. So this is for people that are that can pay rent and hopefully working towards to work. So to say this is a sober house, we may be misrepresenting what this really is. This is more of a regular permanent house with the rules of no alcohol, no drugs, or smoking. There's a service component to make sure that people are successful, so they would be receiving some services, and we have staff available to provide services. So we wouldn't actually call this a sober housing, because sober housing has a very different kinds of definition to it.
Would there be a lease or a living agreement, you know, required of any resident, you know, and if those rules were not adhered to, you know, they would not be eligible to stay in the property?
Yes, so yes to all of that. But we also have a screening process that they will go through, and we need to follow the fair housing rules. But on top of our normal screening process, we'll be partnering with Lowell House to make sure that people are going through recovery and receiving services. And we've done very similar work in Haverhill, working with Veterans Group to provide housing for veterans, and we have gone through this with them, and it has been very successful. And the other piece that I wanted to actually just mention is the commercial space. CBA provides commercial space to all of our buildings, and commercial space is for people to have meetings, or if they want to have small family gatherings. So there is no outside community space that's available for people to have barbecues and that type of things. And commercial space can also provide a space for people to have supportive meetings if they want. Then the other piece is some of these concerns about who actually lives there has been a big concern for our city councilors. And after deciding that Lowell House would move, we actually came in front of the city councilors on April 25th. And the city council unanimously supported this project. We have done a lot of community meetings and meeting with people to make sure that what this is and what this is not.
But within the rules of fair housing, the contractual rules of the property, are in fact allowable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I would be looking for, obviously you have to, abide by, housing law, but I know you folks have a lot of experience with this, and as long as that was contractual, and if, that were violated, that would mean that a resident would no longer be allowed to, stay on the property.
And as I mentioned, that we're hoping that many of these people will be working, and in average, CBA is 476 units. We have about 75% of the people that lives in our housing that are working. And I know there was Attorney Cox mentioned about police detail, and that's something that we are already doing in our properties. So we'll make sure that we continue with that, as well as we have staff that will be there on site to clean and maintain. So there's always someone. And as you know, we keep our properties in a very good condition. So thank you.
I think that's all been, satisfied as far as I'm concerned, and I'd like to see those conditions, put into, whatever approval we might give to the project.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Mr. Fischett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe, if I could just come back to the dumpster real quick, because I think we got a soft answer on that as far as, I still go back to, was it Unity Place when the transformer was, you remember that? I think the transformer got placed on there, and then you had to come back here after it was already located by the utility company, and it actually conflicted with the landscape plan we had approved, understanding that everybody's hands were tied. Where are you with the utility company at this point as far as the placement of the transformer? I really would like to see that dumpster moved, and I would feel more confident if we can really decisively come up with something this evening, rather than kind of leave it as work on it and see what the utility company does. But
what we have done is taken a very conservative. We haven't worked with the utility companies yet because they generally won't work with us until we are much further along in the process and are ready to break ground, and the contractor is on board, and the electrical engineer is on board, having given, full load calculations to be able to understand all of that. But we have been conservative in the size of the transformer and the spacing of the bollards that they usually want, 6 feet on the front, 30 inches around the back, all sides. And just spatially, the two areas are somewhat equal. And we know we've given enough room for the dumpster to have a full-size dumpster and provisions for recycling. The only issue I would say is access. So my idea of the relocation would be to take out one of the spaces on the Moody Street side parking lot on the north side, and have access straight up into the dumpster from the aisle of Merrimack. So you could do a front pick and then back up and then continue on your way to Moody Street and loop around that way.
Right, go right through the site.
Right.
That makes sense.
And then relocate that space over to where the dumpster is now in a parallel configuration, so that we don't lose any spaces, and we still have plenty of room for the transformer. I think, I understand your concern with the issue that happened on Unity Place, but in that case, there just wasn't a provision at all for the transformer, and we needed to, we got overly onerous requirements from the power company, and really had to kind of cram it into a corner that it didn't fit in, which brought us out into the street with the bollards and all of that. So I'm confident we can do it here, and if the board was so inclined to move in that direction, I think a condition to work with DPD staff to make sure that happens right.
Okay, for that okay. Thank you, Joe. And then I have some questions about the community room, if whoever feels would be best to answer the use of the community room. Is that inclusive to the residents, or is that, when I think of community, is that a room that's open for community events? Because now we're talking parking is already a bit of a concern, so if we could clarify that.
Our community rooms are usage for the residents that live in the building.
Inclusive to the residents?
Yes.
That's it, yeah.
And is there any other accommodations being made for any other modes of transportation at the building? You know, even I don't see like bicycle racks or something that.
We can certainly include bicycle racks.
I mean, I can envision some of the residents living there probably wanting to utilize that and not having two cars or not having a car at all.
Yeah, we are on 3 bus routes, 2 bus routes?
And, yeah, right.
2 or 3 bus routes right there. It's right on Merrimack, so it's, from a public transportation standpoint, we're in good shape. And we envision that the bike rack would be integrated into the park with the National Park Forest service, so that's really a shared amenity for the. I know the neighbor doesn't want outside space, but
Right.
that's public space. So it's on this land, but it's on the easement that the National Park Service controls, and it will be a park with benches and the walkway and the canal and landscaping. And we see the best opportunity to be for the bike rack to be integrated to that.
On that side of the building.
Yeah.
All right. And I mean, we do have history with CBA, and I think it was the Gorham Street project. We actually had the CBA provide us with an analysis of the use of the buildings for parking, and historically, that they have not needed the parking that the zoning typically requires. That we do have history. We have history over the last decade on that.
I failed to mention when I was going over the parking, the North Canal is right there, and that residence has plenty of additional parking that's not utilized. You know, as you know, that's got a long history of revitalization, and CBA is managing that, and they have been monitoring that, those parking spaces in that area. So that's just another opportunity for additional spaces right in the proximate area. So, and it goes back to the same argument that CBA understands their tenant base and the demographics and the needs for parking, and at that site and Unity Place and Gorham Street, that's playing out. So,
And just so I can understand, because I know, Mr. Choi, I think when you first made a presentation, part of it, you said you were listening to the neighborhood, listening to the concerns of even the city council. With the current use of that building, what is the current use and what's moving to Jackson Street? Just so I can understand that. You presented it as this was an improvement from what's currently happening at that site. And I'm just trying to think, even from the abutter, is it improving in the general use? And so if you could just give us a little bit of
So
information.
currently, it's drug and alcohol substance abuse counseling center.
Okay.
So there are a lot of people that comes for counseling and group meetings, so there are a lot of people that are coming to that building versus a residential place where most of the people will be working with commercial. And I actually want to point out that commercial, we want to make sure that commercial tenants fit with the people that's going to be living there. So there definitely won't be a package store or marijuana dispensary, and even restaurant, because restaurant would sell alcohol. So we want to make sure it's a good fit to that building, and then also the neighbors. That's, and then also, I just want to actually mention liquor store being nearby. One of the things that people in recovery needs to go through is they need to live in a normalized environment. You can't always live in an isolated, in a state hospital site where you're isolated from everything. People need to be in a normal environment. So having a liquor store next to you is part of living, and you can't really live in anywhere in the city of Lowell without having a liquor store nearby. So it's really a normalizing process for people that are going through the process.
So currently, people that are going to that site are currently dealing with either drug addiction or alcoholism. Is that
Yes.
correct? Currently,
Yes.
right now?
Yes.
And the idea is the housing that you're going to be providing, and I understand, which we would not be conflicting with your requirements by making a condition that in order to be a resident there, you have to be sober.
Yes, and a lot of current concerns for the current program right now is there are a lot of homeless people, and there's a lot of loitering going around, especially during the breaks. People are out smoking and loitering around. So that's some of the concerns. That was some of the concerns from the neighbors and the city council. Right. So. When this is a residential, not everyone goes out to smoke at the same time.
Right.
So if people who wants to smoke to go outside and smoke, they would be doing it on their own time, not in a group. So you won't see 10, 12 people on a break smoking and loitering at the same time. So that's been one of the biggest concern. And the other concern for the existing program, even though they don't dispense any medication, at that site, it's more of a talk therapy. Many people actually thought that they were dispensing medication, and that was some of the other concerns. So by moving the counseling center to where the health center is, and people also who are coming there currently can also receive other services that the city, the community health center is providing. So it's a good fit for everyone.
Okay, all right, thank you. Christine, did the engineering department look at this shadow study at all? Did they have any comments specific to the shadow system? We don't look at these very often, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I understand the full effects of the shadow study that was presented to us. So I'm just curious if any feedback on that. No.
No.
Okay. What? I think I would be looking for even any kind of, I would be looking for a condition that the engineering department review this, and if they have any concerns, I think that would be important, because this hasn't even been forwarded to them, is that correct?
All the updated and new information they got on Friday.
Okay.
Last Friday.
So we don't know if they actually reviewed it, though. They haven't commented on it, I guess.
Yes.
Is the best way to describe it.
Yes, that's the best way to describe it.
Okay. Unless my colleagues have any comments about a shadow study, I'm certainly not going to.
You need an expert.
No. Okay. And again, the historic board has jurisdiction really over the design of the building. I certainly like where you're headed with that. No question about that. Clearly, it's unfortunate looking at the older pictures and looking what urban renewal did to many parts of the city. It's unfortunate that, you know, we're looking at some of the issues that we are today, trying to recapture probably what was in many cases a more visually pleasing streetscape. But be that as it may, it's what we have, we currently have. All right, Mr. Chairman, I think I think my questions have been answered. Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions, and I'll address this one to Joe if I could. Joe, do you have snow storage on site?
Mr. Chairman, there's some snow storage to the area of the transformer and over by the dumpster, and if we swap those two, those areas will still be available. We've got snow storage along the north side of the Moody Street, along the property line. We are compliant with the setback for parking to the property lines, and we'd welcome a condition that if snow storage interfered with the amount of parking that's provided, we would take it off-site.
Okay. So it's not on the plan here, you're just referring to it, or am I missing it? Is it?
No,
Okay.
just referring to it.
Okay, all right. So I got you on that, okay. Where you have the dumpster now, you said the transformer would be about equally on size of what is the 10 by 12 for the dumpster now, the corral area, as you call it?
Yeah, exactly. The dumpster is 10 by 12, and the transformer is about 8 by 8, but then it has the bollards that are 30 inches on either side and 6 feet on the front, so it ends up being almost exactly the same square footprint.
And then I see it looks like you have all these, what are these, the trees here that'd be abutting the neighbor there, the florist, that are behind the dumpster? Is that what?
Yes, and we would leave some of that to screen the transformer in the relocation and then beef up. We have a line of screening to the east neighbor, and we would continue that. So that would screen the dumpster in that location.
Okay. So you'd be able to put snow storage there as well as where the transformer is? There'd be enough room for both locations, you're saying, or one or the other, or both?
No, both.
Okay. And then back towards Moody Street, you'd have some by the property line there?
The north property line.
Okay. So in the back, you just have those two proposed lighting fixtures in there, and they'd be facing down at the parking lot, I take it, so they wouldn't be shedding on any of Butter's property?
Yes.
Okay. And then will we have wall mounts on the building itself, facing down into the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay. So with the dumpster now, how do the residents get their trash to the dumpster? Is it a place they store it inside, or they take it right out and go right to the dumpster itself?
Is there a trash room? No.
Is there a trash room in the building, or they have to go right to the dumpster?
They'd carry it right out to the dumpster.
And obviously the dumpster, you'd have for recycling as well as just regular use of trash?
Right. So in that 12-foot width,
You'd have both?
would be able to accommodate both a dumpster and recycling bins.
Okay. So actually, if the recycling was put over by the transformer, it'd be closer to the building for the residents to get closer to the dumpster.
That'd make more sense.
They won't have to cross the parking lot.
Right, they went across the parking lot and maybe even snowplows, but,
Yeah. Makes more sense.
there was a mention that you have on-site staff. Can you tell us how many people are on-site staff, if you would, or how that works, on how they're, when they're there, or is it?
So we have designated property manager as well as facilities people that, so they usually work normal hours
Okay. So-
during the daytime, but if there are emergency, there's a calls that can be made. And then also, we would contract with Lowell House to have someone who can come in and check on the residents on their recovery.
Okay. So would those people from Lowell House be there on a regular basis, or just come by to visit from time to time?
On a regular basis, they would come. So we don't have, we have an office space that they can share, but it's not someone, because many of the people actually have gone through recovery. And, and we're actually thinking that during the day, most of the people probably won't be there because they'll be working, like a lot of our properties.
So you don't really, so you have maintenance facilities there, but you don't really have on-site staff to watch out for the residents, because they're, as needed, somebody would come by?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right. I'm
Because
familiar-
our main office will be on Moody Street.
Okay, right. Because I'm very familiar with Lowell House. I used to work in Lowell District Court. We did a lot of referrals to Lowell House. And we had a good relationship with Lowell House, and so I know a lot of the people. I mean, a lot of people are referral from court, some people are just referral from other people, or some are just coming on their own, correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, you basically take whoever comes in for assistance, correct?
Yes.
No matter which way they got there. Right, okay. I don't think I have any more questions at this time. I think most of the board members asked a lot of the other questions. Does any of the board members have any follow-up questions, or does Mr. Cox have any response to any questions he wants to add if he's out to anything the board said? Okay.
I just have
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr.
just one
Mr.
quick
Lockhart.
thing I just noticed. On the drive-in from Merrimack Street, right next to the florist shop, there's a long, thin, I guess, lawn area that may be 3 or 4 feet wide. Is there any opportunity there to do a little more landscaping in terms of plantings to, to brighten it up? Another one
Yeah, it's a 3-foot wide area, and we could do some landscaping in there just for a visual buffer, or just to visually break it up.
yeah, I think that would be appropriate and certainly help out the florist shop.
How'd that affect the shadows, though?
Well, you better not, no, they're not that high. Just, a little ornamental bushes.
I know it's new, so.
It's a tough question.
It is, I know.
Better be moss.
Yeah, we'll have to see those when we get bigger trees in the future now. We'll have to ask them about the shadow effect. Any other board members have any follow-ups, or?
I just have one
Sure,
question.
go ahead, Bob.
I noticed between the Moody Street property at 200 Moody Street and your proposed site, there is a small parcel of land owned by the city of Lowell that abuts both parcels. Does anybody know what that's for, or whether or not that could be used for something?
It is, it's a 130 square foot parcel that was retained by the city. I'm not sure how it came to be, whether it seems strange, it doesn't seem like a tax title piece. I don't have any history on why it's there, but it's landlocked.
It seems like it would have been cleared up in your renewal days, but it could have been after that. Or else it's an abandoned public utility function or something. Christine, could you just check to see what it is? I'm just curious whether or not it can be used for either site. I mean, where's the access to, by the city to that site?
There is no access. Completely landlocked.
Yeah. That's my only question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else, any further questions? Dick, you all set, or any, no? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, so I believe, Christine, so we have what? We need 3 votes tonight, 1 for the site plan and 2 on the special permits, right?
Correct.
1 for the land use and 1 for the parking reduction on the special permit?
Correct.
And the site plan on the site? Gotcha, okay. All right, so the board needs 3 votes, that's what I thought. I want to make sure we got that right. I'm sorry, Ms. Fischel.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the site plan with the following conditions. That the dumpster be moved to the adjacent open space at the rear corner of the building. That the community room remain inclusive of the residents. Applicant to include a bike rack on the canal side of the property. That the final approval of the parking spaces, 15 parking spaces at the AR parking garage by the city manager. That the snow removal and disposal procedure must be submitted to the engineering department, and any changes to the process will require a resubmittal to the engineering for approval. That the residents of the building must be alcohol and drug-free as represented by the applicant. The final landscape plan to include screening of the transformer and the dumpster to be approved by DPD. The effects on the abutting property of the shadow study that was submitted must be reviewed and acceptable to the city's engineering department.
Can we throw in the final stormwater plan to be approved by?
He was getting
Got
there.
right here. And that
I have a couple more when you're done.
the final stormwater management plan must be approved by the wastewater utility staff and the engineering department.
We got a couple.
Mr. Fischel?
You want to double check with Christine, see if she has any other questions from staff?
Would you have any objection to adding under the residents being alcohol and drug-free according to their residence contract or something of that?
Yeah, I think I
nature?
said as represented this evening, but according to the
Right.
residence contract, sure, that's fine.
Jerry, I have two. I'd like to include that the selected contractor monitor the floor shop foundation as described
That's
by
right.
the engineer.
Yep.
As well as, I think it would be appropriate that the architect meet with those concerned about the shadowing effect of the building, just to work with them and so that everybody fully understands the effect of that and the impact.
And I think that should be probably incorporated with the engineering department as well, but also the work with the abutters to understand the effect.
Can I ask you to just repeat the one about the pre-construction meeting? What exactly?
I think what Mr. Lockhart was referring to was the pre-assessment of the foundation of the abutters property.
Right, the contractor should be monitoring that and aware of it.
And again, that's for any insurance purposes as well. Any
Well, no,
cracks show up and anything else, and that's, yep. So. Christine, is that, did we miss anything that you've had concerns with?
I don't know what number 5 is.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for the site plan, which was made by Mr. Bichette.
I'll second the motion with a
I'm sorry, Mr. Cox, 1 second.
And thank you again. One other thing that was discussed, plus, was that no outside space for recreational purposes. I think that was discussed, and
Okay.
I don't know if that was just
I
listed.
would,
Okay, Mr. Bichette said he has no problem amending that to
I
his
would amend
previous
that.
motion.
And really in conjunction with the community room being inclusive to the residents, that there is to be no outside community space for the residents of the building.
That doesn't preclude visitors to the residence.
That would be correct.
So if
but
they have
no-
like a
No,
small-
nothing specifically
Marketed for
designed for,
outside,
right, you
okay.
can't prevent people from.
Designated.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify
yeah.
that, okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so on the site plan, we have a motion made by Mr. Bichette, second by Mr. Lockhart. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair vote yes. So we have 5 in favor and none against, so the site plan is approved. Now we have to take up the special permit. Why don't we use the one for the land use to begin with, for that special permit?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the special permit incorporating the conditions of the site plan. And also, I believe we probably should have incorporated in the site plan, but obviously that the applicant must receive Historic Board approval as well as the Conservation Commission as well.
Okay. So for the special permit, we have the same conditions and as added approval from the Historic Board and Conservation Commission. So we have a motion on the floor for that. Do we have?
Second that motion.
Okay, second by Mr. Malovich. All in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes yes, so that motion carries 5 in favor, none against. So the other special permit would be for the parking reduction of 50%.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll
Okay.
second that motion.
Motion, are those with the same conditions that we imposed on the site plan?
Yes.
Okay? Or do you want to put the same conditions that we did on the special permit, the land use that incorporates this board and conservation? Dick, do you want to make it the same condition as the special permit that we did previously, or the site plan? The only difference on the special permit, we put in you need historic board approval and conservation.
Right.
So would you want to do it the same?
I'll keep them all the same.
Okay, so we'll do it the same as the site. The only difference on the special permit, we included the historic board and the conservation commission where we didn't add that on the site plan to begin with. But
Right.
if they don't get approval from either one of them, it's not gonna
Right,
matter anyway.
so,
Okay, so
same
you
as
keep the
site
same as
plan.
do it the same as the special permit then? Okay.
Sure.
All right, so we'll include that as well. Okay, so we have Mr. Snetsky making a motion with the same conditions that were allowed by the special permit for land use. And Mr. Snetsky, made that motion, and Mr. Lockhart, did you second that?
I'll
Okay.
second that, yes.
So we have Mr. Snetsky made the motion, and Mr. Lockhart second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, so that matter carries. So, the 2 special permits and the site plan have been approved with conditions. Wish you all good luck. Happy holidays to all.
Roger.
Thank you. Joe, you wanna grab that picture with those 19?
I'll be right back. Tom,
Pre-zoning. Joe, I wasn't even here then. When I saw the date on it, I said, yeah, no, I don't recognize that. Should I? Yeah, it must be those new LEDs.
Thank you.
Tell Debbie said hi.
I will.
Yeah, the first one, the motion was by, and then Dick, yep. And then was, same, and then the second one, okay, the first one was Jerry and Mr. Lockhart for the site plan. For the special permit, it was Jerry and Bob Malavich. Bob seconded. And on the third one, we had Dick made the motion. And Richard seconded, yeah. Got it? Okay, so first one we got, yeah, Jerry, you and Dick. The second one we have, yeah, okay, and Bob, and then the other one we have Richard and, yeah, okay. Okay, Craig, happy holidays. So moving along on the agenda, any of the board members have any follow-up comments?
We have a historic board meeting next week from tonight.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's on the agenda.
It looks like you'll be
Very,
seeing,
very slow.
looks like you'll be seeing this project in
We'll be seeing
January.
this project
In January.
Early in January.
Any other board members have any comments? No? Any comments from staff?
The deadline for January's meeting is this week, December 7th. So as of right now, we have nothing for the first meeting in January for new business. But that may change because we have a deadline on Thursday.
Thursday's Pearl Harbor anniversary, you never know what can be dropped, right?
Dubious way
Okay. Okay, so hearing from staff, no further comments, can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night, we are adjourned, and happy holidays, everyone.